Hey everybody, this is your GM, your back row Domus, your GM who currently is not on the team right now, but don't you worry about it, Kale, here to bring you episode 7 of the Stack and Shed series. Now, in this series, we're covering all 32 teams, meaning nobody is neglected, everybody gets a chance to be talked about, alright? Now, we're covering a few different topics, and they include what went wrong, what do they need, stack or shed, their draft picks, one move I would do, and their cap space. Now, in this episode, we're talking about the Commanders. So, for all my DMV fans out there, make sure you guys go to the Forestville Mall, get you some Snickerdoodle cookies, maybe a half a pound, maybe a pound if you're feeling, a little bit extra, and make sure you warm it up and you get you a Sprite to go with it, all right? And if y'all don't mind, can y'all give me a side order of oatmeal raisin cookies and just have them warm it up just a little bit, please? Thanks. Let's lock in. All right, let's get into it. So, what went wrong in the Commanders season? And I would venture to say it was a regressing offense and defense. Coming into the 25 season, the Commanders had a lot of momentum on their side. For starters, they just finished making an appearance in the NFC Championship. They traded for Laramie Tunsil. They traded for Deebo Samuel. And everybody is thinking that the Commanders are going to repeat what they just finished doing. Instead, what we saw was a regression in both the offense and the defense. So here's the offensive rankings from the 24 offense, according to NFL Pro. They had the 7th ranked offense and they averaged 28.5 points per game, 369.6 yards per game, 5.7 yards per play, and 54 touchdowns. They were 17th in passing offense and they averaged 215.6 passing yards per game, 6.4 passing yards per play, and 29 passing touchdowns. They were 3rd in rushing offense and they averaged 154.1 rushing yards per game, 5 rushing yards per play, and 25 rushing touchdowns. Now, the 25 offense had the 22nd ranked offense, and they averaged 20.9 points per game, 318.8 yards per game, 5.5 yards per play, and 39 touchdowns. They were 24th in passing offense, and they averaged 184.1 passing yards per game, 6.2 passing yards per play, and 19 passing touchdowns. They were 4th in rushing offense, and they averaged 134.7 rushing yards per game, 4.7 rushing yards per play, and 20 rushing touchdowns. Now, I'm not saying that I expected this passing offense to be top 5 or the best passing offense in the entire league, but you would have thought they would have made a significant step in the right direction. But clearly that wasn't the case. Now, was it because of the quarterback play? Was it because of the availability of their receivers? Was it because the league itself finally had a game plan to counter Cliff Kingsbury's offense and Jaden Daniels? It's possible, but I don't think nobody expected this offense to go 6 steps back after going 4 steps forward. Now, the defensive regression is mainly in part because of the lack of talent that they have on that side of the ball. Now, I understand this veteran-led defense was productive in 24, but I don't think nobody expected the defense to replicate the same thing in 25. Now, they were probably thinking by acquiring Marshawn Lattimore via trade and signing Von Miller via free agency that maybe they'll add a little bit of splash or a little bit of juice to this defense. And clearly that wasn't the case. Now, we can all admit the Marshawn Lattimore trade was a flop, and that Von Miller at this point in his career needs to be paired up with an elite pass rusher in order for him to be successful. And when we look at some of the stats from those defensive players, this is what we have. Von Miller had 9 sacks, 28 pressures, and a 10.3% pressure rate. Dorian Armstrong had 5.5 sacks, 20 pressures, and a 15.5% pressure rate. Jake Martin had 5.5 sacks, 43 pressures, and 11.1% pressure rate. Jahjar Newton had 5 sacks, 23 pressures, and a 10.8% pressure rate. Bobby Wagner had 3.5 sacks, 17 pressures, and a 23.3% pressure rate. Now, I was expecting more production from this defense, but clearly my expectations are too high. Now, let's continue to paint this picture. When we look at the 24 defense, they had the 13th ranked defense and they allowed 23 points per game, 326.9 yards per game, 5.4 yards per play, and 43 touchdowns. They were 3rd in passing defense and they allowed 189.5 passing yards per game, 6 passing yards per play, and 25 passing touchdowns. They were 30th in run defense and they allowed 18 rushing touchdowns, 137.5 rushing yards per game, and 4.8 rushing yards per play. Now, if we compare that to the 25 defense, this is what we have. They were the worst defense in the league, and they allowed 26.5 points per game, 384.3 yards per game, 6 yards per play, and 51 touchdowns. They were 28th in pass defense, and they allowed 242.5 passing yards per game, 7.1 passing yards per play, and 33 passing touchdowns. They were 30th in run defense, and they allowed 18 rushing touchdowns, 141.8 rushing yards per game, and 4.8 rushing yards per play. Now, with that being said, what do the Commanders need? And that is more offensive production and creativity and more defensive playmakers. Now, by promoting David Blau to offensive coordinator, I do believe the Commanders are making the first step in the right direction. Now, I'm not expecting this offense to be productive or creative like the 49ers or the Chiefs, but I do expect for them to be different in some capacity. Now, that all depends on what the Commanders do with this offense. If they can extend Deebo Samuel and Laremy Tunsil, maybe trade for Brandon Ayuk or sign him if the 49ers release him, and then maybe go after a productive tight end in the draft, I think that's a step in the right direction. However, if the Commanders do none of these things, then we need to have an honest conversation about Adam Peters and Dan Quinn. Because at this point, going into next season, they're on the hot seat right now. I understand they started their 10-year hot. I understand that the fan base and ownership wants them to go back to being in the NFC Championship. And I understand that's hard. But at the same time, you have to show that this team is heading in the right direction. Now, getting more defensive playmakers is an easy fix. And the reason why I say that is because you have a lot of cap space and you have a decent amount of draft picks. So whatever you don't get in the draft or free agency, you just get it in the other phase. It's a very simple fix. So if that means that you address pass rusher high up in the draft, that means that you can address corner in free agency or interior defensive lineman or linebacker, however you want to do it. Now, with that being said, the question we all need to ask ourselves is stack or shed. And I will eventually say stack. And the reason why I say this is because you have your franchise quarterback. Build off of that. As long as you don't continue to go after these old, past their prime veterans, I think you're going to be in a good spot. But if you continue to go down that road, you are playing with fire. We saw what the Bengals did when Joe Burrow was on his rookie deal. They built that team up and they went on a Super Bowl run and they went to a couple AFC championships. The Commanders can do the exact same thing. But it all depends on what you do in this offseason, because this is a very pivotal offseason, not just for Adam Peters, but for Dan Quinn and everybody else that is on this coaching staff. When we look at their draft picks, they have their first, their third, their fifth, 2 sixth-round picks, and a 7th-round pick, which isn't bad. You're also in a really good spot in the first round. So you can get one of the top players in whatever position you're trying to address. Now, with that being said, the one move that I would do is draft a defensive player. Now, me personally, I think the Commanders should address the secondary or edge rusher in the first round. Now, whoever falls when it's time for you to make your pick, go for it. If it's Caleb Downs, do it. If it's Arvo Reese, even though I don't think that's going to happen, do it. If it's Sonny Styles, do it. Looking at the Commanders' cap situation, they have $79.2 million for now. And that's in part because the NFL has informed all teams that everyone is getting $22 million added to their cap space, meaning that the Commanders can be big spenders in all 3 waves of free agency. My expectation is the Commanders will go after players such as Lloyd Cushenberry, Devin Lloyd, Adafio Way, Boye Mafe, Tyreek Woolen, maybe make a trade for someone, maybe try to go after Brandon Ayuk depending on how that situation goes. I think all of those options are on the table right now, but only time will tell. But I'm going to end this episode here. If you guys like what you were listening, please make sure you guys leave a 5-star review on anywhere and everywhere that you can listen to this podcast, okay? We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and a few other places. Now, if you want to access those other places, go on Google, type in rss.com Football Junkies Podcast. It should be the first link. When you click on that link, it'll take you to our rss.com page where you can listen to this podcast on your online browser. There should be a box that says listen to. When you click on that box, it'll give you a plethora of different places that you can listen to this podcast. And you can follow us on our YouTube at Football Junkies Pod, all right? Football Junkies Pod. We have a link tree in our bio. When you click on that link tree, it'll take you to anywhere and everywhere that we have Football Junkies content. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, turn that bell on, leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on anything and everything that I've talked in this episode as well as previous episodes. Let's have a debate, all right? You can follow us on TikTok at Football Junkies Pod. Football Junkies Pod. Clips. I know. Give me some time, all right? You can follow us on Instagram at football_junkies pod, all right? Football_junkies pod. Junkies Pod is not what? It is together, not spaced. It is together, not space. Football_junkies pod, all right? You can follow me on Blue Sky at GMKale. GMKAILE. GMKAILE. You can follow me on Twitter at GMKale. GMKAILE. GMKAILE. As always, I hope I gave you guys the fixes you guys need. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys so much. Stay tuned. There's more content on the way. And as always, thank you so much for listening to the best football podcast that you can listen to on a week-to-week, day-to-day basis. This is your GM Kale signing out. Peace and love. Later, guys.